This is the Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition. Good evening. I'm Sabrina Brown. Thank you for joining us. The government is forging ahead with some much-needed hurricane relief for Grand Bahama. This assistance is expected to go a long way in helping to revitalize this island's battered economy. Joan Davis-Roll reports.
The government's restoration master plan is about to enter a new phase as officials from New Providence and Grand Bahama complete assessments on this northern island. This no doubt comes as welcome news for countless hurricane victims, adversely impacted by the mass destruction left behind by Hurricane Matthew. Minister for Grand Bahama, the Honorable Dr. Michael Dabo.
There's some questions that maybe things are moving a bit slow, but I want to assure the residents of Grand Bahama that we are moving as rapidly as we can. Hurricane Matthew has not affected just a single area, it's the entire island. And so we had to put the manpower resources on the ground to move quickly, to do the social assessments and the technical assessments. Both are essential because from the social assessments, we will learn whether or not the home or the individual qualify for government assistance and what type of government assistance. Some people will be qualified for assistance of building materials as well as labor, and some will just be qualified for building materials, whereas others may be qualified for low-interest loans.
The goal of the government, he says, is not only to address this island's restoration, but to ensure that there is an infusion of much-needed capital. This Minister Davo stated will ensure that the wheels of economic growth and development begins to turn on this northern island.
Once that happens, we will be around and about in Grand Bahama beginning to issue the various vouchers necessary for individuals to have access to supplies and to reconstruct their homes and begin to rebuild their lives. This particular time, NEMA will not stockpile building materials. We'll be working very closely with the various larger bonded warehouses on the island, where once the voucher is given, the individual can move directly to one of the major bonded warehouses and access the materials. Likewise, contractors and those who are affiliated with the reconstruction process will have access to these particular bonded supplies that are duty-free as well as VAT-free.
Minister Dabo commended the Grand Bahama Port Authority and others for the role they continue to play in restoring the island to a state of normalcy. He stated that in the halls of Parliament, the government is focused on legislation designed to create a sustainable framework to ensure Grand Bahama's future economic success.
And this is the reason why the government moved very swiftly to put to the House of Assembly the Grand Bahama Investment Incentive Amendments Bill. This is a bill that we feel was essential as part of the process to restructure our economy. Matthew has affected small and medium-sized businesses, has affected the industrial sector, it affected the tourism sector, and as a direct result, some individuals are temporarily displaced and out of work. We have decided to work with our stakeholders to ensure that we come together as a tripartite group to work out a plan to really begin the whole process to rebuild our economy and do it very quickly.
Joan Davis-Roll, ZNS Network News.
The Ministry of Tourism, the Grand Bahama Island Tourism Board, and industry partners are focused on fixing the current challenges facing the industry. With the vast majority of hotel rooms out of commission and limited airlift, partners are working hand in hand to turn the situation around. Megan Shepard has a report.
Tourism officials applauding the steps being taken to rebuild the island's #1 industry. The return of airlift is pivotal to the recovery of the sector, and according to Director at the Ministry of Tourism, Betty Bethel, a turnaround is in the making.
The domestic flights are now back at the domestic terminal, and as of today, we are receiving flights in American Airlines, Bahamas Air, Silver, Delta Connection, and of course, our Sunwing program that feeds our winter business is on hold indefinitely, awaiting the refurbishment of their parent property here, Memories.
Chairman of the Grand Bahama Island Tourism Board, Russell Miller, announcing that the all-inclusive Lighthouse Point Resort has also officially reopened.
Lighthouse Point operated prior to the storm as an all-inclusive resort. With the opening today, they are going to be a mixed-use product, which will be all-inclusive as well as leisure travel. So it becomes one of the first hotels to accept leisure travel back to the island. The other hotels operating currently would have been Pelican Bay, Castaways, and both hotels incurred some damage.
He gave projected dates for other vital properties on the island.
Viva Fortuna is undergoing extensive renovations and making tremendous progress, and they're scheduled to open middle of December, and we feel that that date is good. The Grand Lucayan, as was previously announced, it incurred quite a bit of damage and is scheduled for reopening on the 1st of February. And from all indications that we've received, that date is also a good date.
Bethel noting that as of Monday, there were over 900 hotel rooms available on the island, but other properties are working around the clock to put heads in beds.
They do include properties like Royal Islander, Bell Channel. We also have Sunrise Resort that's also open and accommodating guests.
Megan Shepard, ZNS Network News.
Grand Bahamas cruise sector is rebuilding. A celebrity cruise vessel made an unscheduled stop in Freeport yesterday. Its arrival was certainly good news for this destination. Italia Hall has more.
Things are beginning to look bright again on Grand Bahama as the Celebrity Infinity made its first visit to the island on Tuesday with over 2,000 passengers. The 60-year-old vessel was originally headed to New Providence, but due to rough seas, the ship changed course and made a stop in Freeport instead. During the short stay, passengers had the opportunity to disembark and explore what Grand Bahama has to offer. Tourism partners were then invited on board for a plaque exchange. The ship's captains, Yanis Bertos and J.W.K. say they are happy they made the stop.
We're very happy to at least be here, and the weather is nice, even for our guests. As a reason, the cruise ship, working with the guests, and the ship is very big. It's 90,000 gross tonnage, and we have almost 1,000 crew members on board.
The Bahamas are always beautiful. It was an unexpected visit, but we are really glad to be here. And thank you for the warm welcome today. So I'm sure we'll see you again.
Director of the Freeport Harbor, Orlando Forbes, calls the ship's arrival a fresh start for the cruise sector.
Second day successively that we have had cruise ships calling, one yesterday and two today. Coming back from Matthew a month later, this means an opportunity to grow. It means for the drivers, for the vendors, and pretty much the island as a whole, the return of activity.
Manager at the Ministry of Tourism, Nuvalari Chotterson, is encouraged by the unexpected visit and says the tourism industry is showing signs of a return to normalcy.
And it's very good for our vendors here at the harbor, also our tour operators, Port Lucaya, which has recently opened. I certainly take my hat off to Captain Forbes, also Captain Royal and their entire team here at Freeport Harbor with putting Freeport Harbor back into operation.
Italia Hall, ZNS Network News.
A 41-year-old man of Ghana, Africa, charged in court today with possession of forged instruments. Kameli Agbuti, who is a resident of Fire Trail Road, Nassau, pleaded guilty and was fined $3,000 and then handed over to immigration authorities. Reports say Agbuti arrived in Nassau about a month ago and traveled to Freeport last week, claiming that he left his travel documents behind. He was then turned over to the police for further investigation. Meanwhile, police are making inroads in their investigations into that double murder that occurred in East End last week. This morning, a Nassau man was hauled before the court to be charged with the crime. The victims in this case were wanted by police on attempted robbery charges. Italia Hall has the story.
Armed officers stood guard on the outside of the Garden Lavarity Justice Center as the man accused of killing two brothers near the McLeanstown settlement in East End 1 week ago was taken into court. Onlookers gathered to get a glimpse of the man accused of the crime. Then shortly after 10 a.m., the suspect, 34-year-old Doyle Amaro Mackey of Oxford Drive, South Beach, New Providence, was arraigned before Magistrate Charlton Smith in Magistrate Court Number 2. Mackey, handcuffed and dressed in a plaid shirt, was charged with 2 counts of murder. He's accused of the shooting death of 22-year-old Carlton Hamilton of Colony Club Freeport and 24-year-old Carlos Hamilton, a.k.a. Don Carlos, of Murchison Drive, Freeport. The Hamilton brothers were gunned down in a remote area near the McLeanstown graveyard in East End last Thursday. Mackey was also charged with the attempted murder of Tremaine Ferguson, Joshua Williams, and John Edgecombe. The trio were also shot in the McLeanstown area on the same day. The accused was not required to enter a plea and is being represented by attorney LaQuay Lang. The matter was adjourned until Tuesday, February 21, 2017. Mackey will be remanded to the Bahamas Department of Correctional Services until that time. Reporting for ZNS Network News, I'm Natalia Hall.
Stay with us. There's more news after this.